We have now seen two very relevant messages from the Book of Mormon for our day. Things that Mormon foresaw that we would need, challenges that we would face, and he provided the information that we needed. Mormon could see that in our day it's very difficult to tell the difference between friend and foe, wheat and tare. And so he provided helps and warnings to help us deal with that challenge. Mormon saw that the Antichrist, those who are trying to destroy our faith, are very similar to the ones that they dealt with in their day. Therefore, we can learn some tremendous lessons from them in their day that will help us in ours. And those are two messages that I, for one, see unfolding right in front of us. They are very relevant today. Let me introduce a third one, a very prominent one, one that will take our attention for quite a while. One that I think holds a prominent place in the Book of Mormon because it's a major challenge and a victory we must win. So let me introduce it by asking you to relax your eyes a little bit and look broadly at the Book of Mormon. Is there anything that just doesn't seem to fit with all the other puzzle pieces? Is there a piece that seems odd, that maybe causes you to question, that's really an odd insertion into the Book of Mormon? I notice those. I notice the things that don't seem to match others. There is an entire chunk of chapters in the second half of the book of Alma that seem like an odd insertion into the Book of Mormon. They are the war chapters. Why are there war chapters? And why are there so many war chapters? They are surrounded by things that I very much expect to be in the Book of Mormon. Alma's preachings, the mission of the Ammon, Aaron, Omner, and Himni to the Lamanites, Alma's message to his sons, and then the book of Helaman, where they struggle so much against secret combinations and pride. But the war chapters seem to be an odd insertion, don't they? Has that ever caught your attention? So let's ask the question, what might Mormon have seen in these war chapters that might tip us to the challenge that we face that these war chapters are designed to help? Let's take a look at how this war begins. How does the great war in the Book of Mormon begin? In Alma chapter 46, verse 1, it says, "And it came to pass that as many as would not hearken to the words of Helaman and his brethren were gathered together against their brethren." There was a rebellion against Helaman. And it was led by a man named Amalickiah. Now let me tell you what we know about Amalickiah. Verse 4, Amalickiah was desirous to be king because he sought power. He was also very eloquent. Look at verse 5. They had been led by the flatteries of Amalickiah. And what did he lead them to do? Verse 7, there were many in the church who believed in the flattering words of Amalickiah, therefore they dissented even from the church. So Amalickiah is leading a rebellion, and he's leading people to dissent from the church. Back in verse 2, they're angry, and they want to destroy the others. Amalickiah wants to destroy the others specifically. He wants to be king. He's very flattering, and he pulls a lot of people onto his side, and there's a little bit of a rebellion. Now look at verse 10. There's something very telling in verse 10. Yea, we see that Amalickiah, because he was a man of cunning device and a man of many flattering words, that he had led away the hearts of many people to do wickedly, and to seek to destroy the church of God. Now notice this phrase, and to destroy the foundation of liberty which God had granted. Amalickiah was seeking to destroy their liberty. Now, does that scream out at you? Does that sound familiar? Can you think of someone else who led a rebellion, who was angry because he wanted to be king, he wanted power, he wanted to be in charge, And he's not going to be chosen. And that's going to make him angry. And he's going to want to destroy the people that didn't choose him. Do you see what this story is? This is the story of the war that began in premortal life. This is the story of Lucifer's rebellion against Christ in premortal life because Lucifer wasn't chosen as Redeemer. And do you remember that had Lucifer been chosen, it would have destroyed our agency. And if Amalickiah had been chosen as king, it would have destroyed the liberty of the people. Do you see those similarities? Mormons saw in the war with Amalickiah the very war that began in premortal life. The war that we must win. No other dispensation has been victorious in this war. In the end of the dispensation, Satan always claims victory. Every single dispensation has ended in apostasy because they lost this war. But this dispensation, the fullness of times, it has been prophesied, and we must win this victory. A war that began in premortal life will end in our day. Satan will be bound. His followers will be cast out, and we will be victorious. So don't you think that the war chapters that Mormons saw in these war chapters, the handbook on how to win the war against Lucifer that was begun in premortal life? A war that is claiming so many people that we love. Real people's lives are being destroyed as casualties of this war. Now we must win that war. So there are a handful of lessons that we can identify from the war chapters in the Book of Mormon that will help us understand how to win the victory in our day. Today we just begin with one, just as an introduction to get you thinking about the connection between the war chapters and our war that began in premortal life. So now we begin to see that Amalickiah is a symbol of Lucifer. Moroni is going to oppose him. Moroni is going to be a symbol of Christ. And we've got a war where Amalickiah is thirsting for the blood of Moroni. And Moroni wants nothing more than to defend his people and keep the peace. Do you see that we've set up the pieces of the war that we face? Amalickiah will teach us how Lucifer thinks. Amalickiah will teach us his strategy. And how does Lucifer accomplish what he accomplishes? How does he get into our lives? How does he sneak in and control us? Amalickiah is going to teach us how Satan works. Moroni is going to show us how to defend ourselves against us. This war has the answers that we are seeking to overcome the war against Lucifer. Today, let's tackle just one little aspect of that. If I can convince you of one reality, it's found in Alma chapter 46, where Moroni arms his people for the battle before it even begins. Moroni knows a truth that you and I need to know. He declares it in verse 18. He says to his people, "Surely God shall not suffer that we, who are despised because we take upon us the name of Christ, shall be trodden down and destroyed until we bring it upon us by our own transgressions." In other words, he's trying to convince us that we have complete control, we have complete power over Lucifer and all of his forces, that they will never destroy us, they will never win until we let them in. It's under our control, not his. No matter how influential and powerful he might be, we have total control over him. Listen to Moroni continue in the next few verses. Verse 21, It came to pass that when Moroni had proclaimed these words, behold, the people came running together with their armor, girded about their loins, rending their garments in token, or as a covenant that they would not forsake the Lord their God. Or in other words, if they should transgress the commandments of God or fall into transgression and be ashamed to take upon them the name of Christ, the Lord should rend them even as they had rent their garments. Now this was the covenant which they made, and they cast their garments at the feet of Moroni, saying, we covenant with our God that we shall be destroyed, even as our brethren in the land northward, if we shall fall into transgression. Yea, he may cast us at the feet of our enemies, even as we have cast our garments at thy feet, to be trodden down underfoot, if we fall into transgression. Then Moroni speaks. Moroni said unto them, behold, we are a remnant of the seed of Jacob. Yea, we are a remnant of the seed of Joseph, whose coat was rent by his brethren into many pieces. And now behold, let us remember to keep the commandments of God, or our garments shall be rent by our brethren, and we be cast into prison, or be sold, or be slain. Moroni could see from the very beginning that if we keep our covenants, if they, the Nephites, and we keep our covenants, that we would have all power over the enemy. That's exactly what happens. When Amalickiah attacks, he's completely slaughtered. But then the Nephites do two things that let them in the front door. They're the same two things we are doing today. We haven't learned the lesson of the Book of Mormon, that we have control over Lucifer until we let him in. It's under our control to let him in or not. If we choose to keep the commandments, if we are faithful to our covenants, he has no power over us. This is something that Moroni had stated clearly in the previous battle against Zarahemnah. He stated in that battle, now ye, meaning Zarahemnah, the Lamanite leader, now ye see that this is the true faith of God. Yea, ye see that God will support and keep and preserve us so long as we are faithful unto him and unto our faith and our religion. And never will the Lord suffer that we shall be destroyed, except we should fall into transgression and deny our faith. That is the reality, that if you keep your covenants, you will be preserved. Now, one of the things we're going to talk about is how you are like those stripling warriors. If you keep your covenants and follow a prophet and obey, your preservation in this spiritual battle will be as miraculous as their preservation in the physical battle. These war chapters are a handbook on how to succeed in a very real war, where people I love are falling. And they're falling because they are not keeping the commandments. If we keep our covenants, we can protect ourselves. So over the next few lessons, we are going to watch first the tactic of Amalickiah to become king of the Lamanites. What does he do to get into their hearts? What does he do to get into our hearts? If we can understand his tactics, then we can prepare ourselves for them. We can know in advance what he's going to try and do. When you become parents and you're raising children, you can know in advance exactly what he's going to try and do and be prepared for it. Because unfortunately, as I look around, he's very successful today. But knowing his tactic is going to be critical. Then we're going to watch Moroni. Moroni is going to teach us some great lessons about defending ourselves against those tactics. But the sad reality is, this battle should have been over. This war should have been over after the first battle. In chapter 49, when Amalickiah attacks for the first time, they are slaughtered. Moroni is completely prepared for them, and there is a slaughter. The Lamanites lose over 1,000, and not a single Nephite is killed in that battle. And then, over the course of the next little bit, those Nephites open the front door. They open the front door by making two mistakes, and we're going to talk about them. The same two mistakes we make today that open the front door and let the enemy in. And what a ridiculous time to be doing that, because the enemy is going to destroy us. Now, here's the sad lesson we're going to learn, is once our fortified cities are taken by the enemy, they are so hard to win back. It would have been easier to prepare and prevent than to repair and repent. Winning back our lost cities because of our foolishness is going to cost them, the Nephites, and us dearly. But they did it. They did it with the help of the youth. And we're going to do it with the help of the youth. This is a tremendous section of the Book of Mormon. It is incredibly relevant and powerful to understand that a war began in premortal life that was sent to this planet to continue. It is waging today. And many people I love are falling. But we have the answers. The Book of Mormon gives us the tactics that the enemy is trying to employ. If we are wise and we recognize the warning, we can be prepared. I leave you with my testimony before we jump into this topic, that you have complete power over Lucifer and all of his forces if you will keep your covenants. I testify that your preservation in this war, if you keep your covenants, will be as miraculous as the preservation of the stripling warriors. Stay tuned as we tackle this subject over the next several classes, and we talk about how to win this war that began in heaven.